Time frames are a set of rules related to day, date, and time that can be used in IVRs and call rules. Switchvox can behave differently depending on the time conditions met. Let's view the default Switchvox time frames and learn how to create a new one by heading over to Time Frames under Tools, PBX Features. Conveniently set up are default rules for our business daytime hours, after hours, and weekends. So let's explore the details of the during business hours time frame by clicking Modify. The day of week range is Monday to Friday, and the time range is between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., reflecting typical office hours. The time zone isn't referenced here as all Switchvox time frames are based on the system configured time and date. You can either modify existing time conditions going back to the Modify icon under Actions, or you can create new time conditions by giving it a name and clicking the Create button. You'll notice that current rules can't be modified and only deleted, as denoted here. Also, users can create their own time frames from the user portal, and if admins want to view or modify these, they'll have to log in as the user to do so. So let's create a demo time frame. Currently no conditions, so we're going to create a time condition. The start date and end date values specify the calendar date that this rule is in effect, and it's optional. So we select the start date on the calendar and of course the end date on the calendar. The day of week range will specify Monday to Friday in this example. And specify the open hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if I simply wanted to change the day hours for our main default during business hours time frame here, I could always modify that, delete the current rule, and I could create the next time condition that I want, 8 to 4 p.m. for example. As you might have guessed, the outside business hours default time frame covers all times outside 9 to 5 currently as set up, and weekends in this case. And the weekends only time frame covers all days and times outside of Monday to Friday only, denoted here. You can modify the outside business hours IVR in the same way, or create a completely new rule, as any time frame can be selected when configuring its use in the system. So that's how we can achieve different actions during different times and dates in the Switchvox IVR, and you'll use those in a number of different places throughout the system, as you'll see to come. Welcome back. We're talking about IVR basics in this segment. So what is an IVR? Well, IVR is an acronym for Interactive Voice Response, also referred to as an auto attendant. And the purpose of an IVR is to present callers with a greeting and assist them in choosing the information they're searching for and where to route their call depending on their needs. So when you navigate to the IVR editor for the first time under Tools, PBX Features, IVR Editor, you'll see an example IVR that's already created for you to design or to mimic a typical office greeting setup. So IVR actions are at the core of the Switchvox IVR functionality. They determine what action is taken once the caller reaches a particular stage in the call flow. And these actions can include playing sound prompts, sending callers to an extension, routing to voicemail, or even doing math calculations. Let's view a list of IVR actions by clicking the Create Action right under the Actions flow here. The action types list is available from the drop-down menu, so we'll click an action to display a detailed description of that action, which is done over here. So we've got a number of different options to choose from here. So for example, if we wanted to send a voicemail, there's a brief description, and so on. Now we'll step back for a moment here. Now, IVR options are actions that are taken when a caller presses a key or digit on their dial pad from 1 through star. So that could be pound and any digits as well as star. Under the options section of the example IVR, we're going to click the create option button to view the available options. The setup consists of the digit to be pressed over here, which IVR they'll be routed to, and where to insert the option in the IVR flow. So in this case, we have only one flow available. There are a few things to note. Extension dialing from the IVR, which allows callers to dial a user's extension at any point in the call, is disabled by default. IVRs in Switchvox are built from the bottom to the top. Keep this in mind when planning and creating your call flow. And IVRs can be short and quick to navigate, or longer and more complex. To make deployment easier, I highly recommend creating a flowchart first. An example flowchart could look like the following. Now that we're more familiar with the basic components that make up a Switchvox IVR, let's go ahead and create one ourselves. Back under the IVR editor, we find Create IVR Menu button. Let's click that button and create an IVR for callers to interact with during business hours. So we'll give the new IVR a name. And click Save. Now we'll click the Create Action button, and we're going to choose a dial extension. Next. I'm going to set this up on the D60 next to me. And hit Save. Remember, since we're building from the bottom up, this would now be the final action in the IVR. Now, since dialing directly to extensions is disabled by default, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that's enabled. And I'm going to do that under the IVR menu options by clicking Modify Options. So we don't have any menu options at this time, but what we're interested in is the Enable Extension Dialing. And I could either specify a group of extensions or all extensions within the system. So if I had a sales group here, for example, which is right now my demo group, I can only allow the sales team to be dialed directly and so forth. So I'm going to hit all extensions and hit Save. Note as well, you've got your timeout settings here, what to do if there's no input from the user on the IVR. We can have everything from the language change to different sounds and even go to different menus. And the same can be configured with the retry actions and even the invalid actions that are taken on the IVR. So those would be here as well. So now we'll go back to the IVR editor and we'll add an IVR greeting that's appropriate for our open business hours by creating an additional action with the type play sound. Here. Specify the folder and the sound file. And I'll toggle the is interruptible button to yes, so anyone can hit an action at any point in time, even if the greeting's playing. And we're going to save. Now, should I want to add an additional sound prompt, I can go ahead and do that by creating another IVR action, play sound. So we're going to say for customer support, press 1. So I want callers to be able to press 1 to reach customer support. So at the bottom of the page under options, we'll click create option. The option number is going to be 1. The new IVR menu is going to be customer support, and we're going to save. Next, I'd like callers to be able to access a dial by name company directory from the IVR so they can directly reach individual extensions. To do this, I'll create a separate dial by name IVR, which can also be used by other IVRs in the future. So let's create a new IVR, this time calling it company directory, and a description that's appropriate. We'll create an action with the type dial extension. We're going to do 411, which is our custom group directory in this case. So after this, we're going to head back to our example IVR that we started with for our open hours IVR and create another IVR option. In order to have that directory accessed, we're going to hit create option, and we're going to make it so that if a caller presses star, they can reach that company directory. So the new IVR is going to be the company directory, and save. And I can then add also the appropriate audible cue for the directory over under the actions, just like we created the other sound prompts. So I've gone ahead and reordered the action so that my dial extension is at the end. And this isn't practical, but it is for demonstration purposes. So we're going to hear the congratulations sound, which is my greeting. Then we're going to hear for customer support, press 1. And then it's going to dial extension 200 because nothing has been inputted. So I now have an IVR menu that greets callers with the business hours message, listens for a 1 that routes callers to the support IVR, and a star that actually takes them to the company directory, and then dial 200 if no action is taken at the end of the actions flow. Now when we call 555 from our handset, we'll be taken to the IVR menu to simulate a caller and test its features and functionality. If everything's correct, we can go live with it, or of course we can make changes as needed. Let's take a listen.
Congratulations! Switchvox has been configured properly. For customer support, press 1.
And there we have it, a successful IVR. You should now have a basic understanding of setting up a Switchvox IVR and the options and features available to choose from. We'll dive more into advanced IVR call flow design, so I'll see you over there. Welcome back, and in this segment we'll be talking about advanced IVR setup. If you've already watched our video on IVR basics, you're familiar with the components that make up a Switchvox IVR and how to bring them together to make a simple call menu. We created an IVR that plays a greeting and listens for callers' input to route them to a sales queue or company directory. In this guide, we'll go more in depth and create an advanced IVR with layers that would accommodate an office environment with more than one language. We need to create our sub-IVRs first, as they're needed as destinations when creating our IVR actions. So for this demo, we'll need 5 additional IVRs, a sales and a support queue, and a French language parent menu, an after hours, and a new parent main menu. Switchvox already comes with sales and support menu examples, so we'll use those a bit later and create our new ones. We'll build off of our previous demo menu for our English IVR, but you can create a new IVR if you're just joining us. So let's click Create IVR menu and call it Main Greeting. Hit save. Click Create IVR menu again. We'll call this one Main French. Save. And one more called main after hours. Now we'll go back to the main greeting and click create action. So we're going to select our main greeting that asks callers to choose their preferred language. So an example of a recording that would match this IVR that I've set up here is, thank you for calling Acme Widgets. For English, press 1. For French, press 2. Let's go back to the editor and create our first action by clicking Create Option. So we're going to select the demo IVR, which would be our main English. We've just set it up called Demo IVR for the previous example. And we're going to hit Save. We're going to create another menu option here, which is going to be option number 2. And that's going to go to the main French at the beginning of the IVR. So a quick tip, in many cases your greeting could simply ask callers to press a digit like 9 for a different language, but continue through the IVR in the primary language without needing to press 1 and switch menus. This is preferred. Simply change your entry point from the time check to the main greeting audio down the IVR actions list. So for that, if you have other options in the IVR, it's your entry point. And you can just, for example, if they press 1, you could skip down through the menu accordingly. So now we're going to go to our demo IVR. And we're going to create a time-based clause action here. So we're going to select during business hours. So in this case, we're going to keep them within the same IVR, and we're going to go right to the greeting if it's open hours. And because this is top down, we want to move this up here. So if it's during business hours, we're going to go ahead and continue through the flow. For customer support, press 1 and dial extension 200, and we'll get into those other options. You can customize them as you'd like. So if you haven't already set up a greeting, you can go ahead and head over to the sound manager, upload it first, and come back. We're just using default congratulations for this example. So we're going to create another IVR action that is for the after hours. So it's another time-based clause. And let's choose outside business hours. Then we're going to go to main after hours at the beginning. This is going to play our after hours message and information accordingly. So if you have a different language, you would create an additional after hours IVR menu for that. You can also switch languages within the IVR if you'd like to go that route. So let's save that again. And we're going to bump that up. So lastly, we're going to create our routing options. We're going to go to the IVR editor and set up some options here. So right now we've got star for the company directory. We've got 1 for customer support. I'm going to change star instead of the company directory to take them back through the IVR loop. And I'm going to create an option that 9 takes them to the company directory, and you're going to want to put this into your audio greeting as well, so they have those instructions. Now, to set up the main French greeting, with our open hours French menu, we'll use the behavior from the previous main English, or demo in this case, with a couple of changes. So the first being, you'll want to replace the audio greetings with their French versions. The second is to tell Switchvox that we've changed languages and need all of the system audio prompts to be in the French language. So to do this, we'll create an IVR action with the type change language. And we're going to select French. And this action will trigger after the time-based clause actions and will be the entry point for the main business hours for French and just before the greeting. So if you create a French after hours menu, you would also need to add the change language action there as well. So let's play a sound. We're going to choose French greeting. Let's get that time-based clause there as well. So during business hours, main French. And move that time-based clause up, and of course we would create one for the closure as well, after hours. So we don't have a French after hours, but you can create one, of course, and we'll just use this for the example. And so you'd continue to create your IVR options, press 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing, and you would replicate what you've done on the English side or the other language side. So our main after hours menu will consist of a greeting that lets callers know the office is closed, but they can leave a voicemail message. We'll start by setting up our greeting with create IVR action, play sound, and selecting the prompt from the sound manager. So this is a default sound prompt, but as I said, it's going to essentially announce that the business is closed and they can leave a voicemail. So we'll create another action, which is send to voicemail. And we'll choose the mailbox. Let's say 100 is our reception or general mailbox. And now we've completed our after hours IVR menu for the English side. Again, you can do this for the other language side or the sub IVR as needed. Now we're ready to configure the last components of the IVR call flow, starting with the sales queue menu, which was option 1 from the main English menu, our demo IVR here. So here's a real-world scenario. It's become apparent that users receiving calls from different sources, such as calls directly from clients, suppliers, and various call queues, are unable to distinguish the different calls that come in from the various sources. So we want to change a way that we greet callers or even prioritize their importance, and also let us know the source of the call, of course. There's an easy solution to this problem by using the modify caller ID action by setting a ring hint. So from the sales IVR, we're going to create an action here. We're going to select alter caller ID. So here we can choose between prepend, which is before the caller ID, or append, which is after the caller ID, or replace the entire caller ID using replace with. And do we want to modify the caller ID number or the name? So we'll go ahead and we're going to use append So we're going to use append so that information is after the customer caller ID, and we're going to change the caller ID name, and it's going to read SQ so that it can all fit on the phone, for example. In this case, I'm going to make it short. SQ would be short for sales queue. Save settings. Now to achieve the ring hint, we're going to create another action, this time as set distinct ring hint. And the hint is going to be sales. Now, since callers have already been routed to the sales IVR, we want them to progress naturally into the sales queue without pressing any options. So we're going to create a last action here. It's going to be to dial an extension. We're going to choose our sales queue, 400. So now when callers enter the sales IVR, they're going to be greeted with a message. The caller ID is going to be altered to append SQ after the customer caller ID. We're going to set a distinctive ring hint as sales, and it's going to dial the sales queue extension and put the caller into the sales queue. So just as we set up our sales queue, we'll want to distinguish calls that come from our support queue, which is option 2 from the main English menu that we set up, and ensure callers are routed to the right place. So let's navigate to our support IVR. Let's create an action to alter the caller ID. Append to the caller ID name. This time we're going to use TS for technical support. We're going to create another action for the distinctive ring. And this hint's going to be called support. And lastly, we'll create a third action which will actually route the callers to the support queue by selecting dial extension and choosing our support queue. In this case, I'm going to use the advanced sales queue. So now when callers choose option 2 from the main menu, they'll be routed to the support IVR. Phone users will see TS after the caller name, and we'll have a visual alert that the calls originated from the support queue. So if we want to test our greetings at any time, we can set these up as extensions. And to do that, we can just go to Manage, Create Extension. I'm going to choose IVR. I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3. Route to IVR, main greeting. At the beginning is the entry point. And we can go ahead and test that out from our handset by dialing 1, 2, 3.
Thank you for calling Acme Widgets. For English, press 1. For French, press 2.
I'm going to press 1 for English.
For customer support, press 1. Thank you.
So by dialing 1, 2, 3, I was able to test the main greeting. I was able to hit 1 to go to the sales IVR, or the demo IVR in this case, and I was then taken into the sales queue directly. When you're ready to use your advanced IVR call flow, that extension for me is 1, 2, 3. I can go and I can route now a DID to that extension, or route calls to that extension in any other fashion that the Switchvox uses. So I hope you have a great understanding of how to build advanced IVRs in Switchvox, multi-layered, and how to set up routing and change your caller ID so you can also have users know the source of the calls. So we'll see you in the next segment, and thanks for joining me.